7. Common foods. You should never reheat. Hidden risks of cancer and dementia. I want you to pause for a moment and think about the last time you reheated a plate of vegetables, a piece of chicken, or some leftover potatoes from the day before. Maybe you just popped it into the microwave for a quick minute and a half. Sounds super convenient, right? But have you ever stopped to wonder, is that meal which seemed healthy at first still actually good for you? Welcome to Wellness Unfolds. I'm Dr. Sam Wells, a physician specializing in senior health here in the U.S., and I'm here to share real, simple, and important tips to help you live stronger, feel happier, and stay sharp as the years go on. Today I want to talk about something surprising. Some foods that are typically good for you can actually become harmful when reheated the wrong way. And no, I'm not talking about fast food or frozen meals. I mean foods most of us think are healthy things like leafy greens, eggs, mushrooms, potatoes. They seem harmless, but if you're not careful, they might silently increase your risk of cancer, chronic inflammation, or even dementia as you get older. Have you ever noticed that after eating leftovers, your stomach feels bloated, your head feels cloudy, or you're just more tired than usual? One of my patients, George, 68 years old, once said to me, "Sam, I thought I was eating healthy, plenty of veggies and whole foods, but after a few months my memory felt foggy and I always felt bloated. Turns out I was reheating the same meals over and over." I'm not sharing this to scare you, but to help you become more aware of the small daily choices that can either support your health or slowly wear it down. As we age, our bodies don't process toxins and inflammation as efficiently as they used to. What your body handled easily in your 30s could become a real problem in your 60s. Think about it this way. You're eating well, exercising regularly, taking your meds on time. But just by reheating certain foods the wrong way, you could be feeding your body harmful compounds like oxidized fats, inflammatory agents, or even chemicals linked to memory decline, like nitrosamines and oxycholesterol. These sound technical, but their impact is very real. So today I'm going to walk you through 7 common foods found in nearly every household that can become toxic when reheated. And I won't just stop at the warning. I'll also show you how to eat them safely, how to store them properly, and how to still enjoy your favorite meals without harming your health. Because I believe growing older shouldn't mean living in fear, it should mean living smarter. If this is something you care about, hit subscribe to Wellness Unfolds and share this video with your loved ones. Knowledge doesn't just protect you, it can protect your entire family. 1. Mushrooms. A nutritious food that can turn toxic. When reheated, ever saved some stir-fried mushrooms from dinner and reheated them the next day for lunch? Maybe it was a mushroom sauce, a veggie stir-fry, or just a few leftover pieces in soup. Sounds normal, right? But if you're over 60 or simply want to protect your brain long-term, it's time to take a closer look at that habit. I had a patient named Laura, 72, who lived alone after losing her husband. She was vegetarian and loved using organic mushrooms, cooking a big batch to last the week. "I just throw it in the microwave and lunch is ready," she told me with a smile. But lately she'd been feeling bloated, had trouble digesting, and said her memory wasn't what it used to be. When I asked about her diet, it became clear she was reheating mushrooms almost daily. Now mushrooms are great. They're packed with antioxidants, B vitamins, and beta-glucan, which supports your immune system and heart health. But mushrooms are also extremely sensitive to heat. When cooked, their natural proteins and enzymes break down, making them easier to digest. But when you reheat them, especially in the microwave or on high heat, that protein structure keeps breaking down in unpredictable ways. This can create more difficult to digest compounds, which might cause bloating or a heavy feeling after eating. But more concerning is the oxidation that happens when mushrooms are repeatedly exposed to high heat. Their delicate fats can become oxidized, producing compounds that damage cells and trigger low-grade inflammation, one of the key contributors to aging and cognitive decline. A study in food chemistry showed that reheating mushrooms at high temperatures, especially in the microwave, significantly reduces their polyphenols and antioxidant enzymes. In other words, not only are they losing their nutrients, they're also becoming a source of oxidative stress, which older brains are especially vulnerable to. Now imagine doing this 2 or 3 times a week. Over the course of a year, that's hundreds of times your body has to deal with these oxidized compounds without you even realizing it. And because the effects don't hit immediately, they're easy to ignore. But over time, they can show up as chronic fatigue, memory fog, or lingering inflammation throughout the body. So what's the solution? Simple. Enjoy mushrooms when they're freshly cooked. If you must store them, use an airtight glass container and eat within 24 to 48 hours. Reheat them gently using low heat or steam. Or even better, get creative, use leftover mushrooms in cold dishes like salads with a squeeze of lemon and olive oil. Tastes great, and it's safer too. Growing older shouldn't mean risking your health for convenience. I believe you're wise enough and care enough to start making better choices. And sometimes that starts with something as small as yesterday's plate of mushrooms. 2. Rice. A familiar staple that can quietly become risky. I know what you're thinking. Rice. I've been eating reheated rice my whole life. What's the big deal? And you're right. Rice is a staple in so many cultures, especially in Asian households. But just because it's common doesn't mean it's always safe. Especially as we age and our bodies don't bounce back from small kitchen mistakes the way they used to. I remember making a house call to check on Richard, a 68-year-old patient. He kept feeling nauseous, had mild stomach aches, and sometimes felt dizzy. After running tests and ruling out the big stuff, we finally traced it back to one simple habit: he was reheating rice every single day. Each week, he'd cook a big batch, leave it out for a few hours, then store it in the fridge and microwave portions throughout the week. Easy and cost-saving, but surprisingly risky. Here's the truth: rice that sits out at room temperature for too long becomes a perfect breeding ground for a bacteria called Bacillus cereus. This bacteria produces spores that are incredibly resistant. Even if you reheat the rice on high, the spores might survive and grow in your gut. Food poisoning from Bacillus cereus isn't rare, but in older adults, the impact can be much worse. A weakened immune system and slower body response mean one bad meal can cause extended diarrhea, dehydration, or even short-term cognitive issues. I've seen a 73-year-old man hospitalized with confusion and low blood pressure after a bout of food poisoning linked to leftover rice that had sat out for hours before being reheated. Have you ever cooked a big pot of rice and left it in the cooker until evening? Or maybe you packed a lunch and didn't reheat it until hours later. These are everyday habits, but they open the door to harmful bacteria. What's the fix? You don't have to give up rice. Just change how you store and reheat it. Once rice is cooked, cool it quickly and place it in a sealed container in the fridge within 1 to 2 hours. When reheating, make sure it's evenly hot with no cold spots. Best option: heat it on the stove with a splash of water or steam it. Avoid microwaving dry rice when possible. I know a lot of older adults hate wasting food or cooking in small portions. But think of it this way: you're investing in a sharper mind, a healthier gut, and more peaceful years with your family. All starting with that simple warm bowl of rice prepared a little more mindfully. Have you ever eaten rice that sat out too long? Did your body respond differently? Pay attention. Sometimes the smallest signs are your body's quietest warnings. 3. Leafy greens. When a superfood turns into a silent threat. Let me paint you a picture. You make a big batch of spinach lasagna on Sunday, colorful, full of vitamins, low in fat. You think perfect lunch for the whole week. Then on Tuesday, you microwave a portion. Thursday, you reheat the rest. All along, you're thinking you're eating healthy, right? But sometimes the very things we trust the most can quietly work against us if we don't use them the right way. Leafy greens, especially spinach, are a true gift from nature. I'm not here to argue that. As a doctor, I've told hundreds of older patients to eat more greens to support heart health, blood pressure, and brain function. Spinach is rich in vitamins A, C, K, iron, folate, and most importantly, nitrates, which are great for blood vessels and circulation. But that's only true when it's fresh or freshly cooked. So what happens when you cook leafy greens and keep them in the fridge for a few days, reheating them again and again in the microwave? Let me tell you about Mary, one of my patients. She's 66, very strict about clean eating, no fried foods, no sugar. Every week she makes a spinach soup and splits it into containers for each day. But lately she's been complaining about memory lapses, fatigue, and mild stomach pain. We ruled out a lot of possible causes until she explained her healthy eating routine. Turns out all that reheated spinach was turning its natural nitrates into something called nitrosamines. Nitrosamines are something you should know about, especially if you're over 60. They've been classified by the World Health Organization as potentially cancer-causing, particularly linked to stomach and colon cancer. But it doesn't stop there. Recent research also suggests they may damage the nervous system, contributing to memory loss and raising the risk of Alzheimer's. Have you ever stored cooked greens in the fridge and eaten them over the week? Noticed the liquid looks odd, or the flavor seems off after reheating? That might be your warning sign chemical changes are happening. So what's the solution? You don't need to stop eating greens, you just need to eat them the right way. Cook smaller portions and eat them while fresh. If you need to store them, cool them quickly, seal them well, and eat within 1 or 2 days. And when reheating, use low heat, avoid high-power microwaving. And try not to reheat the same greens more than once. As a doctor, I believe health starts with the small choices we make every day. Even something as healthy as spinach can backfire if we're careless. But if we listen to our bodies and understand what truly supports us, we can enjoy it all safely. Still reheating greens from yesterday. Maybe today's the day to switch things up. You don't have to give up your favorite dishes. Just treat them with the same care you'd give to your memory and your future. 4. Potatoes. A familiar food that quietly puts your nervous system at risk. Think back to the last time you roasted a batch of potatoes for dinner. Maybe you wrapped them in foil, popped them in the oven, and saved a few for later. It seems like a smart move, convenient time saving. But let me tell you a lesser-known side of this harmless-looking dish, something many older adults aren't even aware of. One of my patients, Frank, 71, lives alone and handles meals pretty well. One day he came in with vague symptoms, tiredness, nausea, and occasional dizziness. Tests showed nothing serious. But when I asked more about his meals, he admitted I usually bake 6 or 7 potatoes at once, wrap them in foil, and just reheat them during the week in the microwave. And that turned out to be the key detail. Here's the thing, when potatoes are cooked and left at room temperature for too long, especially when wrapped in foil, they create an oxygen-poor environment. That's the perfect condition for a bacteria called Clostridium botulinum to grow. It's not a common bacteria, but it's extremely dangerous when it shows up. It produces botulinum toxin, one of the most powerful nerve toxins known in nature. Even a tiny amount can cause muscle paralysis, breathing trouble, or death if not treated quickly. Now, of course, eating leftover potatoes won't always lead to poisoning. But for older adults whose immune systems and detox organs like the liver and kidneys aren't as strong, the risks are much higher. These toxins may not cause immediate symptoms, but over time they can affect the nervous system, causing chronic fatigue, memory decline, or worsening existing conditions. And just because a potato looks and smells fine doesn't mean it's safe. That still good feeling can be misleading. So how do you enjoy potatoes safely? First, only cook as much as you'll eat that day. If there are leftovers, cool them quickly. Don't leave them out for hours. Remove the foil, place them in a sealed container, and refrigerate within 1 to 2 hours. When it's time to reheat, skip the microwave, which often heats unevenly and can leave cold spots where bacteria survive. Use the stove or oven on medium heat to make sure the whole potato is safely warmed. I get it, life's busy and batch cooking is practical. But sometimes convenience comes at the cost of your health. And at this stage of life, even small choices in the kitchen can have a big impact on your nervous system, your memory, and your overall well-being. Still reheating potatoes from the night before? If so, today might be the right time to shift that habit. With just a few tweaks in how you store and reheat them, you can still enjoy your favorite potatoes without gambling with your memory or your health. 5. Eggs. A great source of nutrition that can trigger inflammation and memory loss. I'm pretty sure a lot of us love eggs. They're easy to cook, easy to eat, and packed with nutrition. Boiled eggs, sunny side up, scrambled, steamed. These are all familiar meals, especially for older adults who need a light digestible protein. But here's something most people overlook. Once an egg is fully cooked, Reheating it, especially in the microwave or at high heat, can actually turn its nutrients into something harmful. And it's your brain and heart that take the biggest hit. One of my former patients, Linda, 66, once asked me a very honest question. "Doctor, I boil eggs for the whole week and reheat one every morning. Am I doing the right thing?" That question led us to a very important conversation about what really happens when you reheat a cooked egg. See, the problem lies mostly in the yolk. Egg yolks are high in cholesterol, which the brain actually needs for healthy nerve cell membranes. But when you reheat eggs at high temperatures, especially in the microwave, that cholesterol can oxidize and form compounds called oxysterols. These are oxidized fats that can trigger inflammation, damage blood vessel walls, and interfere with how brain cells communicate. Studies have found that oxysterols are linked to hardening of the arteries, which increases stroke risk, and they've even been detected in brain tissue affected by Alzheimer's. Have you ever noticed that reheated egg whites get rubbery and the yolk has a strange smell? That's a sign that the proteins and fats are breaking down. Not only does the egg become less tasty, but also harder to digest, especially for older adults with slower metabolism or sensitive stomachs. So what should you do? The answer isn't to stop eating eggs. It's about learning how to enjoy them the right way. If you're prepping boiled eggs ahead of time, consider eating them cold. Add them to a salad sandwich or pair with greens. If you really want them warm, reheat them gently by placing in warm water or using steam, not a high-powered microwave, and avoid reheating them more than once. Over the years working with older adults, I've learned that things like memory loss or heart issues rarely come from one big mistake. They often come from small habits we repeat every day. Reheating eggs might seem like nothing, but over time it can quietly add stress to your body. Are you reheating your eggs every morning? If so, try switching it up for a few days. Eat them fresh or cold. See how your body responds. Sometimes a small change is all it takes to feel lighter in your stomach, in your heart, and even in your mind. 6. Chicken. A healthy meal that can turn inflammatory if reheated the wrong way. Have you ever roasted a batch of chicken on the weekend and saved the rest in the fridge for later in the week? It feels like a smart move, convenient and time-saving. But here's a truth not many people know. Every time you reheat that chicken, especially in the microwave or at high heat, you're not just drying it out, you could also be creating harmful compounds that silently affect your brain and heart. I remember a patient named George, 72. After his wife passed, he handled meals on his own. Every Sunday, he'd roast a whole tray of chicken divided into containers and reheat one serving each day. "I thought I was eating healthy," he said. "No junk food, no canned stuff." And he wasn't wrong. Chicken is a great protein source low in saturated fat. But George didn't realize the way he was reheating his meals might be putting his health at risk. The issue isn't the chicken itself, it's what happens to it when you heat it up again and again. When you first cook chicken, the proteins go through a process called denaturation, which makes them easier to digest. But when you reheat it at high temperatures, especially more than once, those proteins break down even further, becoming tougher, harder to digest, and forming less friendly compounds like AGEs. AGEs, or advanced glycation end products, are formed when protein or fat combines with sugar under high heat. They're a major driver of chronic inflammation. This isn't the kind of inflammation you can feel right away. It doesn't hurt or swell up, but over time it can damage your blood vessels, your brain, and other vital organs. Studies now show a strong link between ages and diseases like diabetes, atherosclerosis, and especially Alzheimer's. Imagine this: every day you eat a small serving of reheated chicken. Not enough to make you feel sick. But after months, maybe years, those AGs build up. They inflame your brain's blood vessels, slow down your nerve signals. It's the kind of thing that makes people feel foggy, tired, or forgetful, but they can't figure out why. I'm not saying you need to give up your favorite chicken dish, but how you use it makes all the difference. Instead of roasting a whole bird for the week, try cooking enough for 1 or 2 days. If you do have leftovers, reheat them slowly. Use steam or a pan over low heat instead of the microwave. Or even better, Enjoy cold chicken in a salad. It keeps the nutrients intact and avoids the inflammation. We don't have to overhaul everything at once. Just paying attention to small kitchen habits, like how we reheat our food, can go a long way in protecting memory, heart health, and mental clarity over time. So next time you're prepping dinner, ask yourself, will I eat freshly cooked chicken tonight, or the third reheated portion from Sunday? Your health starts with small decisions like that. Tôi đây là bạn dịch tiếng Anh theo phong cách văn nói mạch lạc, và tự nhiên đúng với giọng kể của tôi. Dr. Sam Wells. 7. Carrots. A sweet vegetable that can turn into a silent threat when reheated the wrong way. Picture this, a steaming bowl of vegetable soup on a cold day filled with rich orange carrots. We often think meals like this are the ultimate symbol of health, and they usually are if eaten right after cooking. But here's something many people don't know. Once carrots are cooked and reheated several times, especially in the microwave or at high heat, they can quietly become harmful, especially for older adults like us. Carrots are naturally full of goodness. They're rich in beta-carotene, the precursor of vitamin A, which supports your vision, skin, and immune system. They also contain a small amount of natural nitrates. Nothing dangerous unless you cook the carrots, store them for several days, and then reheat them over and over. When that happens, the nitrates can turn into nitrites and worse into nitrosamines, compounds linked by science to liver cancer, nervous system damage, and even cognitive decline. One of my patients, Mary, 68, loved making big batches of vegetable soup. She'd keep it in the fridge and heat up a portion at each meal. Carrots were always a main ingredient. She thought she was eating healthy, and to be fair, she was, except for the way she handled the leftovers. Over time, she started feeling bloated, tired, and foggy. She had mild headaches and just didn't feel as mentally sharp. No one suspected that the cause might be hiding right there in her go-to soup. Now, I'm not saying you should stop eating carrots, but you should know that the chemical reactions that occur when reheating food, things you can't see or smell, can build up over time and affect your brain and liver health. Nitrosamines, which form from repeated reheating, are classified by organizations like the World Health Organization as possible carcinogens, especially when consumed regularly over time. So what's the solution? Don't let carrot dishes sit out at room temperature too long. Cool them quickly. Store in airtight containers and keep in the fridge no more than 1 to 2 days. When reheating, use gentle heat and only reheat once. Better yet, if you love vegetable soup, make small batches for 1 or 2 meals. Or keep the raw carrots separate and add them fresh when reheating. These little changes can make a big difference. As we age, our bodies become more sensitive to chemical byproducts, things we used to tolerate easily when we were younger. Now, every meal and every cooking habit is a chance to protect your memory, your liver, and your clarity of mind. Still reheating your favorite carrot soup every day. Maybe today's a good day to try something different so you can keep enjoying the flavor and take better care of your long-term health. Let me end with something I believe is the most important message in everything I've shared today. No food is bad by itself. Chicken isn't bad. Eggs aren't bad. Carrots, rice, spinach. They're all good foods when prepared properly. The issue lies in how we store, reheat, and handle them, especially after age 60, when our bodies can't detoxify like they used to. Our immune systems are weaker. Digestion slows down. The brain, liver, kidneys all become more vulnerable to long-term buildup of harmful compounds. I always tell my older patients, cooking your meals well isn't enough. What you do after cooking matters just as much. Here are a few simple rules I always recommend. Cool your meals quickly and refrigerate. Don't leave them sitting on the counter too long. Bacteria grow faster than you think. Use glass containers, not plastic, especially when reheating. High heat can release chemicals from plastic into your food. If possible, reheat on the stove or in the oven, not the microwave. It takes a little more time, but it's safer and more even. Microwaves are convenient, but not always the best choice for delicate foods. And finally, don't reheat the same food more than once. Each round of reheating increases the chance of chemical changes your aging body doesn't need. Healthy aging doesn't come from big dramatic moves. It comes from small, thoughtful choices like the container you use or how you warm up leftovers. Those choices protect your brain, your immunity, and your quality of life. So how about you? Among the 7 foods I've shared today, which one do you reheat the most? Have you ever noticed any strange symptoms afterward? Let me know in the comments. I read and value every single one of your stories. If you found this video helpful, please hit like and share it with your family and friends, especially those who take care of aging parents. And don't forget to subscribe to Wellness Unfolds so you never miss another tip from me, Dr. Sam Wells. Until next time, stay healthy, stay sharp, and stay joyful every day.